Hello, and welcome to Kingdom Inspired Kids podcast, where parents talk. I am your host and founder, Calvette Boyd, and today's conversation is going to go a little bit like this. Today, I want to talk about peace at home during the summer months. So, school may be out, but peace doesn't have to be. In this episode, I want to talk about how to create a calm, Christ centered home during the summer months. From building flexible routines to managing, those dynamics that the siblings, your children have together. Let's see what we can do to make this summer a summer that's not full of chaos, but a summer that's full of connection and a summer that is fun and one to remember. So for me, I always want to make sure that we're doing something special in the summer. So the first thing I want to talk about is how routines are important. From way back when, I kind of realized that my children it's been easier for them when there's a routine, when there's a consistent routine. We're not all over the place. We're not doing 20 different things. I remember way back when they were very young, I remember that I would always make them take their bath at 7 o'clock at night. I would let them have their final snack at 7:30, and then at 8 o'clock, right before 8 o'clock, they would say their prayers and go to bed, and then we would get up like 6 o'clock in the morning. So they had plenty of time to get some rest. And so what I noticed is after the kids started to grow older, get a little bit older, and those routines were broken, it made it harder for them as well as for me to function. So the first thing I would say is jot down some notes, what your day looks like so you'll know exactly how you need to plan things out. Yes, it's summer, right? We've got doctor's appointments and different things. So different church events and all those kind of things. So things are going to be different. I get it. But what I want you to do is jot down exactly what you have. Make sure you have your calendar so that as you are jotting things down, you're not missing things. So go ahead, get your notepad, get your pencil. I'll give you just a second or two to grab that so we can kind of go through this together. All right. So hopefully you have that available. After all, you are looking at the podcast and you know that I'm going to give you some steps and strategies. So here, listen, get your pen and paper, go ahead and write down, look at your calendar for the next couple of weeks, or write down anything that you have planned for the next couple of weeks. Then I want you to go through and see, you need to know what time you have to go to work, or if you're a stay-at-home mom, or if you're a stay-at-home parent, or you're homeschooling, what time does your school actually start? Because you're going to need to know that. Some people, I think they homeschool the whole year. I don't really know a lot about homeschooling, so I don't really know how that works. But jot that down. Jot down what time you got to be at work. What time do you get home from work? What time do you guys have dinner? What time is bedtime? What time is the shower? They take their shower or their bath. So you want to make sure that you write all of those things down. Now, let's kind of go through a mock plan for the day, because what I said earlier is that consistency and those routines are really good. Same thing with us. Most of us are better when we're in a routine and we have certain times that we do certain things. So go ahead and let's go through today. Let's just give an example of what we're going to do for tomorrow, not today. So let's say we're going to get up in the morning at 6 a.m. When we get up at 6 a.m., what's the first thing we do? Get up at 6 a.m., you're going to pray, you're going to read, you're going to brush your teeth, or you're going to go and have breakfast, wake the kids up. For me, I like to get up earlier than my family so that I can have a little bit of time to kind of meditate, get my day started before everyone in the house gets up. I'm usually the first person up. So go ahead and plan that out. So let's say you get up at 6 a.m. 6:30, maybe you're waking the kids up, or 7 o'clock. Now, I know it's summertime and a lot of parents let their kids sleep all day, and a lot of parents let their kids stay up all night. I didn't come from that household. And so that's not how my household is ran. I did not have that. I think my parents made me go to bed at 9 o'clock, and it didn't make any difference if it was spring, summer, winter, fall. It didn't matter if it was spring break, Christmas vacation, any of that. It was always the same routine. So, okay, we wake the kids up, let's say 7 a.m., get the kids up, go ahead and fix their breakfast so they can eat, or if they're going to eat cereal or breakfast bars or whatever, if they're not having a hot breakfast, make sure that they eat. And then if your children are on medication, go ahead and give them their medication. That way it gets in their system. They didn't eat on an empty stomach. And then what are we doing today? So, mom, if you've got kids that are going to summer camp or they're going on any kind of if they're going to daycare or whatever it may be, what is your drop off time? If you got to be at work at 8 o'clock and you're 30 minutes from work, or let's say you're 15 minutes from work, then you're going to want to go ahead and by 7:30 you're leaving out of the house. So that gives you a little bit of time to get to work, drop the kids off, get to work. After you are done with that and your day is done and you get home, let's say you get home, you get back to daycare at 5 o'clock to pick up the kids, or 5:30. Let's say 5:30. Let's say you go to work at 8 and you get off at 5. And it takes you, 15 minutes to get the kids. You get the kids. Any errands that you need to run, go ahead and run your errands while you're out. Come home, prepare your dinner. Your kids need to have activities, whether it's homework or what they learned from camp today, whatever it may be. Go ahead and let the children do what they're, if you give them any kind of screen time so that they can, they're watching TV or they're playing games, give them a little bit of time for that. I must warn you though, a lot of screen time for our children is not always a positive. So limit their screen time and then go ahead while you're cooking dinner, they're getting ready. You guys, once you finish dinner, and you're doing dishes or whatever your evening looks like, cleaning up your kitchen, doing dishes, and then maybe you guys have time for family time where you just sit down and talk with no electronic devices, no TV, no tablets, no phones, no iPads, so that you guys can actually sit down as a family and talk about what your day was like. You do that. After that, maybe the kids, their food is digested. The kids are going to, if that you have kids that have to take nighttime medicine. I know at some point my kid has had to have nighttime medicine. They take their nighttime medicine, they take their shower, their bath, they get ready for bed, they say their prayers, and then they go to bed. It is very, very important. I can't stress this enough. It is very, very important as a parent or guardian that your children have a consistent routine. It throws them off so bad if they're taking their medicine at 7 a.m. one morning, then it's 9 a.m. one morning, then it's 11 a.m. one morning, then it's 11:45. It throws them off. So we want to make sure that these kids are in a routine. It also, them being in a routine can also build responsibility. So what happens is, if they have a clock and they know that every morning they get up at 7 o'clock, they go brush their teeth, they come out, you've got breakfast ready, they sit and eat. After they eat, they take their medication. As they get older, your children should start to develop that routine and understand, okay, this is the same thing I do every single day. Are there going to be changes? Absolutely. What if you wake up one morning and the power is out? Well, you can still eat breakfast bars. You might not be able to go in and cook a breakfast, but you can still have consistency during those times where things may change or fluctuate. Evening time, when your children are at home, they can't just, for me, it has been easier when there has been consistency in the television, consistency in the screen time period. So I know there's some times where I'll say, okay, you can have 2 hours of screen time. That might be too much for some children or teens. They might need to have 30 minutes, because I can tell you these kids get on these games and they get excited and hyped up and like they're just going. And they're already, a lot of our children are already hyper, so that attention deficit hyperactivity part of them, the hyperactivity part of them, gets them going and they're on the game, and man, they got that adrenaline rush and they're just going, going, going. So I try to make sure that I limit the screen time to a very minimum, because I can tell that when I don't do that, I start to see those things that I don't like to see. I start to see sometimes the irritability. I start seeing, if you go and you feel their heart, you can feel their heart just like pounding. Those kind of things that we don't want to see. It's evening time. You want them to kind of relax and calm down. Or if you have children that are outside playing, or they're in the pool, or maybe they're running and playing in your yard, or playing basketball or something, playing football. Yes, it's a good thing to have them run off some of that energy. But just remember, if they've been at summer camp or they've been at school, they, daycare or whatever, they're probably already tired when they get home. And if they're not, if your children are, like the Energizer Bunny, and they just keep going and going and going, that's fine. Just make sure that you monitor what they're doing, and you kind of have those activities planned, and your children will know. This will also help them as they grow older. It will also help them to know how to navigate their time, and kind of how to, like, to tell time and watch time. I know when we were kids, we were always outside. We were outside until the street lights came on, is what we were told. We stayed outside and we played all day long. A lot of children nowadays, they've got tablets and TVs in their room, and so they want that screen time. So parents, just make sure whatever you choose to do, just make sure that you're consistent with it. The other thing is, if you're going to go shopping, if you have to go run errands in the evening time after you get off work, sometimes it is inconvenient to bring the kids, to take your kids home and drop them off with maybe an older sibling or your spouse or your significant other. Sometimes it can be inconvenient, but for me, I would much rather bring the children, go ahead and take the children home, and then go out and do any errands that I have to do while they're playing or they're doing their activities. Sometimes 5 o'clock in the evening, there's a lot more traffic. There are a lot more people in stores. There's a lot of shopping going on. Even if you're grabbing food, usually around that time of evening, it's busy because people are getting off work or people are going to work. So that's something that you want to keep in mind as well. The other thing is siblings. So I can just tell you, my kids, man, they argue, fuss, and they don't physically fight, but they verbally fight. And I think that's something that almost all siblings do. So just make sure that you're keeping the peace with the siblings. I can tell you this. I heard a parent say a few days ago that the child that may have the disability, so the child that may have the ADHD, and then you might have another child or children that don't. Sometimes those other children feel like the child that has the disability gets more attention from the parents than the children that don't. So make sure, I know as a parent, I know that sometimes they need more attention, but you've got to make sure that to keep the peace in the house, that you're making sure that you're spending the same amount of time and you're being fair to all the kids. You're not just spending all of your time with the one child that has the ADHD, and then the other children that don't, you're not giving them the attention and time that they need. Because I can tell you, kids grow up and they can be resentful. And they're just like, sometimes you didn't have time for me. You're always, paying attention to that other child. So please make sure that you're adding those kids, period, into your everyday life, into the routine when you're making your routine. The other thing is, make sure that you're spending some time, game night. We have game night sometimes at our house. I love having game night. Now, sometimes our kids or even adults can be sore losers. So make sure that there's a reward for the winning team, whether it's bragging rights or whether it's, you get pom poms and you're jumping up and down and you're excited or whatever it may be. Just make sure that you do something, you have some kind of reward for the team that wins. And sometimes when we do games, we'll do, the best 2 out of 3. It's not just, oh, I won a game and I'm the winner. It's the best 2 games out of 3 games. So that's something else to consider. Also, if your children are still really hyper and it's time to go to bed, sometimes you can get things like, I think for babies there's like lavender, well, and for adults there's like, I think it's chamomile or lavender scent. There's different kinds of things that you can find. I know they have it at Bath and Body Works. They have Dr. T's, I think is what it's called at Walmart. There's different places that you can find things, lotions and soaps, bath oils, things like that to kind of calm them down. There's also candles that you can burn and plug-ins that you can burn that kind of have that calming scent. And so that's really good. I know sometimes you can use lavender oil. When my kids were little, I would take that Johnson and Johnson's baby lotion, even when they were probably like 7 or 8. I would take that Johnson's and Johnson baby oil, or baby lotion, and I would warm it up in the microwave, and I would put it on my hands and rub it in real good, and then I would give them a massage. That's probably why people think now that my children are spoiled. They are, but I don't call it spoiling. I just call it loving. And that was a chance for me to kind of teach them, what it feels like as an adult to go and get your massage and things like that. I know my sister uses like Vaseline, and she may put a little bit of lavender lotion in with that Vaseline and rub it in on the kids. So those are some things that you really want to consider as you're getting your routine down and you're planning out your day. The other thing is, make sure, please set an alarm so that your kids know when they hear that alarm, it is time to take your medicine, whether that's morning or night. That helps them to build a routine again as they're growing older and kind of help with time and them understanding things like that. I would also say, as a parent, make sure that you're preparing for, bed. Sometimes I already have their night clothes together with their socks and their undergarments and all of that stuff, by day for the week. I might plan that out. I used to plan it out for each day of the week, and I would go ahead and have that stuff together so that when I got ready, or when they got ready to get, when they got older, they were ready to go in there and gear up their stuff themselves. I had it already ready, because sometimes choices take a little bit longer. And remember, sometimes our kids, as we're talking to them, they hear what you're saying, but they're trying to pick out, their brain is made different. So their brain is like picking out words that you're saying in the conversation and then trying to put that together. So those are things that you want to consider as you're getting them ready for bed. You also want to make sure at nighttime, when it's bedtime, that they understand if lights are out at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, lights are out. That doesn't mean, oh, mama, oh, daddy, I need some juice. Oh, I'm so thirsty. I need to go potty. Well, I didn't get a last snack. I'm nauseous. That's the newest one I've heard. Oh, I'm not feeling well. I'm just so nauseous. No, you don't want to go to bed, and it's your bedtime. So make sure that you eliminate all those obstacles. Start that early with your children so that they know that that is not going to work, because I can just tell you, I've been manipulated by the kids, and it's something that's easy to do. They come up with all kinds of things to keep from going to bed. Getting up in the morning time. Can you give me just 5 more minutes? Man, I am so guilty of giving 5 minutes. I've given 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I've given an hour before. So just make sure that as you are waking your kids up in the morning, they understand that. Also, make sure that you as a parent are teaching them as they're getting older, right? When they're babies, you're not, but as they're getting older, teach them how to get their clothes ready for the week. You got 5 days of daycare this week. You got 5 days of school this week. Let's go ahead and get your stuff together. I can tell you when my children were little, I remember grabbing, my kids wore uniforms. So I remember grabbing the shirt, the socks, like I said, the undergarments, everything, all the undergarments, the hair bow, the lotion, the deodorant when they got old, and as they got older, the deodorant, the earrings, if they were going to wear a necklace or bracelet, I had all of that stuff together for the entire week. On Sunday, I would go through and I would make sure that everything was ironed. I had each day of the week with a little hanger on it: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I would also get one of those gallon size or half gallon Ziploc bags, and I would put their earrings, their socks, their undergarments, their jewelry, and all of that. I would punch a hole in it and put it on the hanger, and I would line it up in their closet so that they knew to grab this for Monday, this for Tuesday. And so that made it so much easier. Listen, I know sometimes it can be challenging, but I also know that together we got this. This is a process, but the more you're consistent, the better it is for you, the more peace you have with your children, and the more peace you'll have in your household. Because I can just tell you that sometimes it seems like as parents, we don't know what to do. So we got to figure out together how we can make this journey easier for parents. And that's why we have Kingdom Inspired Kids, where parents talk, because this journey is so important. God has blessed us with these children, and we've got to make sure it's just like when he blesses us with anything else. We've got to make sure that we are responsible and we take care of what he's given us so that he can reward us with more. And also because, at the end, we're going to have to stand. There's a day of judgment. So we want to make sure that we've done what we should do and what we could do to help our children. Listen, I hope you guys remember, join me every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. You can catch me live on Facebook, on my personal page, as well as my business page, Kingdom Inspired Kids. You can catch me on YouTube at Kingdom Inspired Kids dash the letter P, 6, and the letter E. That P is lowercase as well as that E. You can also catch me, guys. If you see me somewhere, make sure you stop and say hi, flag me down. I always want to have a conversation. And I hope you guys just remember, like, comment, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends about it. Don't be embarrassed about it, but let's be about our Father's business and taking care of our kids. I hope to see you guys soon, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.